Hi everyone! This is the video for lesson 1.1. Our learning target today is I can recognize all 23 helping verbs in sentences. Before we get started on taking notes, I want to remind everyone that one of the benefits of instructional videos like these is that you can really tailor it to your needs. So if you need to pause the video or rewind the video, you can do that at any point. Let's go ahead and have out our Cornell notes and we're going to get started. So, the first thing we're going to fill out here at the top is our topic and objective for the whole unit, which is verbs and subjects. We also have a couple of essential questions for the whole unit. What is a verb and how do I find it in a sentence? And what is a subject and how do I find it in a sentence? When you've written those down, we're going to hop over to our questions or main ideas column in the left. This is where we're going to write those big picture things. So for this lesson, and I would encourage you to write the lesson title 1.1 so you can differentiate it from other lessons later. So 1.1 we have what is a verb and what are the 23 helping verbs. When you've written that, we're going to go over here to our notes. Remember, our notes are going to be details or answers to the questions. They might also be specific examples so we can see how these concepts are functioning in an actual sentence. So let's go ahead and answer what is a verb. And a verb is a word or phrase that expresses action, condition, or state of being of the subject. We'll kind of talk more about what that means as this goes on. But something important to know, the verb is the first thing you look for in the sentence. You have to be able to find the verb first. There are three types of verbs you'll see in sentences: helping, linking, and action. Action are those verbs that we're already pretty good at identifying because those are the things we can do, right? We can run, we can swim, we can eat. Where it becomes tricky are with those verbs that we can't necessarily do. And that's why we want you to memorize the 23 helping verbs, because anything that you're not doing for the most part is going to be one of those 23, and it'll be functioning often as a helping verb and sometimes as a linking verb. So if you can memorize those, you're really doing yourself a big favor in identifying verbs. We're going to watch kind of a cheesy video next, but I do think it will help you to memorize the 23 helping verbs. So as you're watching the video, go ahead and write what those are down in your notes. If you need to pause the video or rewind the video, you have the freedom to do that.
Was and were, being, been, and be. Have, has, had, do, does, did, shall, should, will, and would. There were 5 more helping verbs: may, might, must, can, could.
Okay, so hopefully that helped a little bit. If you did not get all of those down, oh, sorry, I went too fast. Over here in the left column are the helping verbs in the order that the song went, if that would help you to memorize them. If you're like, that's silly and I'd rather just do them by letter, I do have an option over here that you could write down as well. But the important thing is either way, you memorize those 23 and you have them in your notes somewhere. So now that we've looked at what the helping verbs are, let's kind of look at some examples of how they actually function in sentences. You certainly do not have to write all of these down, but I would encourage you to write at least a few. So here are a few sentences. Let's look at this first one kind of as an example. So it says, I am feeling nervous today. I can tell just by looking at that sentence that feeling is going to probably be a verb, because that's something I can do, right? I can feel. I can do that even tomorrow. So I know that's going to be a verb. What's tricky is I might not initially recognize am as a verb as well, but I know that is one of the 23 helping verbs, and that's really the only function am can have in a sentence. So I'm actually going to recognize that as my helping verb, and box that entire phrase as my verb phrase. And we'll kind of get in the habit of boxing verbs typically. So the next example, I might decide to go home. Okay, again, decide. I can decide to do something. That's an action. And we'll talk about why to go is not part of that in a later lesson. Okay, so I can see might. Even though I can't might something, that is one of the helping verbs, so I can circle that and box that whole phrase. You can see similar examples for we did agree to that. It may be that way. And then this last one is a really good one because notice that sometimes the helping verb might be separated from its other verb or its action verb. So like here, I can know something, right? That's something I can do. Should, we know is my helping verb, but already is not either one of those, right? I can't already something, I can't already tomorrow, and it's also not one of the helping verbs, so actually we have to make two separate boxes, and sometimes that is going to happen. So, a few examples there for you. Alright, always in these videos we want to give you the opportunity to practice. It's important that you not only go through the practice questions, but you also read the answer explanations, particularly if you got something wrong. We also encourage you to go ahead and write your score down on your instructions page so you can keep track of how you're doing on each learning target. After your practice, your next steps are to go back and add to your notes if you haven't already. This would be a great time, especially if you missed questions in the practice, to add some clarifications and maybe additional examples to your notes. Also, let me know what questions you have. Part of my job is, as you're working on these things, to be clarifying with people questions, concerns, misunderstandings that they have. And then finally, determine what kind of practice you're going to do for this learning target. So you have several options that are listed on your instructions sheet, and you kind of have the freedom to choose what you want to do there.